Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to Lee Judges TV. Good evening to you all in the chat watching live, and good evening to you all if you're listening on the audio. As ever, I'm your host, Dan Potts, for this evening. I'm with Lee Judges, I'm with Tom Canton, and I'm with Sophie Nicolau to discuss the weekend's fixtures and also what it means for Arsenal in terms of success and failure this season. We want to go straight into it because there's a lot to discuss tonight. So I want to welcome guests. I'm going to start with Tom, if I can. How are you, sir?
Yeah, very good, very good. Just got back from a meal, hence the smart get up. It's not for you, sorry.
I didn't think it was that smart looking at you, mate, if I'm honest. But, if that's
Oh,
I
you
thought
making
you
an
done.
effort, mate, then yeah.
no, very good, boys, and Sophie, of course, too. Yeah, fantastic to be on the show as always.
Good stuff. Tom, let's go straight into it with yourself, mate, and then I'm going to bring Sophie and Lee into it. This weekend has thrown up a lot of question marks over potential top fours, potential third place now, potentially up for grabs anyway, people are saying, because of what happened at Chelsea. And that's where I want to start. I want to break some of these games down and then look at what success may look like. And of course, I don't like to say it, but what failure might look like. So let's start with Chelsea and this third stroke fourth place. Chelsea look to be struggling, I suppose, is the word to use. Anybody can lose a game of football, Tom. Don't get me wrong. But I do believe personally that some of the politics or some of the off the field stuff has potentially put fear into some of the fans and players at Chelsea. And has that affected their result on the pitch? Is my first question. Because I look at that Brentford game and I was watching it and they had 10 minutes where they totally and utterly lost the game. I know it sounds silly, but that frankly was what happened. So my first question is, do you think that there's some ongoings at Chelsea that potentially off the pitch are affecting their performances is my first question. And do you think they've got dragged down into this top four race and that third is now up for grabs?
I'll answer the second question first. I think yes. I mean, when you look at a side that if we win on, if we win on Monday, we're 2 points behind them. You can't argue then that they're not part of this kind of battle. Because if we were 2 points off of fourth place, you wouldn't say that that we weren't in a top four race. So they absolutely are, and it's good. It's obviously good for us. It gives you not. I don't want to use a word like a parachute, saying third place is a parachute, but it gives you kind of that extra target. And at the end of the day, Arsenal shouldn't be aiming for fourth. Arsenal should be aiming to finish as high as feasibly possible. And if that means that we can get third this season, then obviously that would be a great achievement for this year in the context of what we came to expect from, at the start of the year. So yes, I do think that Chelsea are in it. Yes, they're still a very quality side, and you're probably not going to see a Chelsea that got beat 4-1 by Brentford every single week. They're going to come back next week stronger, but they do have the FA Cup to still play. They still have the Champions League they're still in, so they've got other distractions. And speaking of distractions, in answer to your first question, Dan, I think it would be very difficult to not be distracted by everything that's gone on. I don't think I could sit here and say that the footballers aren't aware or, they're ignoring it, because there was so much uncertainty about Chelsea. The thing about Abramovich is that, just talking footballing specifically, he had ambitions for Chelsea. The ambition was always to win the title and win the Champions League, and he was going to invest to be able to do that. We don't know now what the ambition is going to be for whoever takes that on. And if you're a player that signed on to Chelsea with, knowing what Chelsea's ambitions and the way in which they wanted to move forward was, that is now been thrown up in the air. So, yes, I think there are distractions. Whether or not that's having an impact on all the players or some of the players or none of them, and this just would have happened anyway, it's impossible to really tell with such a small sample size. But look, I think at the end of the day, they are showing some vulnerabilities. And if you're a quality side, which I believe that we are, we should be looking to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Sophie, let's come to you because I believe we should be raising the standards of the Arsenal. I do. I think that we should be demanding the best. And at the moment, the best is that we can hope for anyway is third place. So I'm looking up, not over my shoulder. Now, of course, Tottenham today will come into a bit later as to why we're looking up at them now as well until we play Palace tomorrow. But do you feel the goings on at Chelsea has perhaps opened the door for Arsenal to look at third place now?
Yeah, I think we should always be looking, like Tom said and you said, to strive as high as possible. The goal at the beginning of every season for every team should be to try and win the Premier League. But we know that we're not in that bracket or pool of teams that are able to do that just yet. We've now found ourselves in an improbable situation that nobody was expecting, few were expecting. I don't think, if a lot of people put their hand on their heart, they thought that we would have excelled this much this season under this manager after eighth and getting kicked out of Europe. But credit to him and credit to the players, the way they've come together has been nothing short of feeling like we've got our Arsenal back, and that connectivity that they have created is incredible. So because of that, I think this is a team full of chemistry that believes they can finish third. Whether or not we end up doing that, it will remain to be seen. We've gotten good results against Chelsea since Mourinho has left. Conte finds it difficult to beat the Arsenal, and we've got the North London derby coming. And I think for Chelsea, it's a pickle because, I've worked for companies before in the entertainment industry as well, where things go on sometimes where, a film will have a certain subject matter and you're getting lambasted in the media, lambasted in the press. You have to figure out, it's like a crisis communication situation. How are we going to handle this? What are we going to do? What are we going to say? We don't want to upset X group. We don't want to upset Y group. And eventually, I think that takes its toll on definitely the hierarchy. But I think maybe it's taken its toll on Tuchel more than anything. Tuchel is the energy and the buffer between the hierarchy and the players. And I read the other day, I don't know if this is true or not, that he's also going through a divorce, which is a very difficult situation. So when you pile that onto the pressure of actually just being Chelsea manager, dealing with an owner who has been front and center in this awful situation that the world is seeing unfold right now, eventually it does affect you. Now, people say once you cross those white lines, like Kev will say, you're a player, you just play football. But I think that eventually it does grate on you. And to be quite honest, I don't think Chelsea have been that great this season. I think they had a bit of a Champions League hangover, a Super Cup hangover. I don't think they've played their best football. Lukaku hasn't worked out. Timo Werner is still struggling. They've been lucky to get goals from players like Mount and Pulisic in their midfield. And when Reece James is playing, he's great. Chilwell, losing him, I think that affected the team. So I do think that third is up for grabs, but we've got some really tough games coming up. Right now, I'm just still focused on fourth.
Yeah, and I think that's sensible. Of course, we want to be looking at what is realistic. And I think that certainly Chelsea have opened the door, but I think are probably still the favourites to get that third place. Before I come to you, judges, I want to say on Chelsea quick, because a lot of people tip Chelsea to win the league, and I never really understood it. I went for Liverpool, and I was kind of thought I was going to be wrong until Man City left the door ajar for them to come back into the race. But I look at Chelsea's side, and I don't go, wow. And that was why I didn't think they'd win the league. I look at some of their players, and I 100% like to have them. And I think they've got some really good youngsters as well coming through their academy, the likes of Reece James, Mason Mount, etc. But I look at what they are doing this season, and I've not been too jealous of some of their players. And I was doing a 1-11, funny enough, with Tobes and Lawless and Sam from Chelsea. And Sam was really kind of like, this back line's easy, they're all Chelsea, and everyone was agreeing, and nobody was giving Ramsdale and the Arsenal lads a chance. And then we got to the forward line, and he just went quiet. And I think that's what's let them down this season, Chelsea. They've not had Lukaku. Havertz hasn't really been in the mix, in my opinion. Ziyech hasn't really made it. They've got a few players there, Chelsea, that need to step up now. And I think, judges, that going into the last quarter of this season, Chelsea are definitely catchable and definitely beatable from what I saw at the weekend, because they've got some weaknesses. And I'm going into this game at Stamford Bridge now a little bit more confident, I think, because I think that we are, of course, on form, and Chelsea have definitely got some weaknesses that we can exploit. So what's your thoughts on third place and Chelsea at the moment?
Win our next 3 games, we go to Stamford Bridge in third. Simple as that. Simple as that. You know what I mean? Like, it's all in our own hands. And let's bring it on. What will be will be. We're in a very, very strong position. I feel that. Listen, Chelsea's next few games, right? They play Wednesday, Real Madrid. Then they go away to Southampton. Not easy, at the end of the day. You expect them to win there, as I expect Arsenal to win. Then they go to Real Madrid again. They play Real Madrid again. Then they play the semi-final of the FA Cup. Then they play us. All we've got to contribute before that game is 3 games. Tomorrow, Brighton, and Southampton, and then we take them on. You know, win those 3 games. We go to Stamford Bridge in 3rd place, something to hold on to, something to get. If we was to beat Chelsea, then 3rd place is well and truly on. You know, and if we was to draw, you know, who knows? You know, I mean, Chelsea have got under pressure then from Spurs and ourselves. So, you know, listen, Chelsea are far nowhere near out of this. Chelsea has also got, I think they've got to go to Man United. They've got a couple of tough games as well, like, you know. So it is really silly. You know, I know everybody's losing their things about Tottenham winning today. You know, I'll say that I didn't even watch it. I watched Top Boy. It was fantastic watching Top Boy. Like, absolutely brilliant. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
Decent, by the way, Top Boy. I finished it now. Class.
Oh my
class.
God, decent.
Absolute
decent.
class.
It's unreal. It is unreal. Ashley Williams, Ashley Williams, should I say?
The Swansea centre half, Ashley Williams.
I'm
Ashley
losing
Roberts.
it, like, you know what I mean? But like, it is absolutely. I'm telling you that now. I thought, right, Spurs are going to. I did think Spurs would win today. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm going to be like, no, I'm saying Ashley Williams. It's Ashley Walters, of course. But like,
Walters, yeah.
what I'm saying is that I think that they was going to win it. And I'll tell you what, I watched about 4 episodes or 5 episodes of Top Boy. And I said, I've got to watch it. I've got to watch it. And I ended up watching it, and it was absolutely superb. Listen, Spurs are going to do what they've done, and they've done what they've done. Tottenham are under pressure today, by the way. That's how to do it, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, and actually, we're now in 5th place because of their goal average and all that. So, what will happen tomorrow is if Arsenal go there and win, nothing changes. But I tell you what does change. One thing changes. It's a game less. It's a game less for them to get above us and all that, like, you know. And as I say, like, you know, that's it now with Chelsea. Let's try and hunt Chelsea down. Let's try and be positive about it. We go 2 points behind Chelsea. And then if we can beat Brighton, which we should do, then get that result against Southampton, we will because Chelsea are playing in the FA Cup that day, so they can't get no points. We will be going to Stamford Bridge in 3rd place. And guys, if we're going to get top 3, top 4, when we go to Stamford Bridge, we must be in 3rd place. We cannot afford to drop 3 points against Crystal Palace. We can't afford to drop 2 points against Brighton, and we can't afford to drop points against Southampton. If we are going to get into the top 4, top 3, we have to win these next 3 games. It's as simple as that. I'm going to go as far as say, if we don't win one of that, if we lose tomorrow, I don't think we will get top 4. I really don't. I think this game on Monday is so important because what it do will set us up there. I did watch a little bit of the West Ham game today, not a lot of it. I watched about 20 minutes of it and all that. And what I see of it, Everton were well and truly in that game. Why didn't Everton see that game out? Because they couldn't defend properly. Arsenal can and have been defending properly.
Yeah, you're right. Excuse me, 100% you are. And not to spoil it, but Top Boy, what an ending. That's all I'm saying. Jesus. Let's not go any further than that.
I've just been told today that they are making another one. So if you've not watched it, I know Tom probably, you know what I mean, he's not probably into Top Boy, like, you know what I mean? But what a...
Why do you say that?
I don't know. Have you watched Top Boy? Let's see if you ever haven't.
The answer to your question doesn't matter. I want to know why you think I've not said it.
It's the way you talk. It's the way you talk. There you go.
Right. Okay. All right.
Because
I'm wearing a shirt, isn't it? That's why.
Something you haven't. It's clearly something you ain't.
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, there you go. Let's forget Top Boy and let's move on.
Before we go on, Ashley Walters, by the way, top actor, massive gooner.
Massive gooner. Yeah, he is a top actor as well. Tom, let's come back to you, man, because Chelsea have opened the door ajar, but of course it's going to be a massive game at Stamford Bridge. But let's move on to talk about our North London rivals today. They were looking pretty tasty in terms of the result. Against Newcastle, went a goal down. Of course, my phone starts going mental. I then tell everybody to shut up because 2 minutes later they're 2-1 up. So I don't know why people don't learn, but they get really excited, don't they, when you see Tottenham losing? Of course, it happens. But if they are to continue the way they're going, they've got the easier fixtures, in my opinion, anyway, Tottenham. Then I think they are our closest rivals, let's say, to top 4. What's your thoughts on Tottenham under Conte? And do you think, or do you agree with that statement that they're probably the ones we have to watch out for?
No, they absolutely are. I mean, I was looking, I suppose it's a bit of a comfort blanket for me, to be honest, but there's a website called 538 that has a prediction algorithm that they use to kind of predict the likelihood of finishing in certain positions. And I mean, at the moment, Arsenal have got a 66% chance, according to the metrics, of finishing fourth. Spurs are 33%. It was actually lower than that before they won today. Chelsea, meanwhile, are 96%. This is before, obviously, we play tomorrow. And I can imagine if we do win tomorrow, that'll shoot up quite considerably. But still, Spurs are a side that have two of the best players, not just in the league, but in the world. And when you've got one of the best managers in the world as well, in Antonio Conte, you know, all it takes is for you to get those two players. And then you add in, say, like Kulusevski, who's been, let's face it, really good. So he's completely surprised me since he's came in. I really didn't think he would be that much better than, say, what Lucas Moura was already providing them, but he certainly has. Bentancur has improved them in the central midfield as well. And Romero has been excellent this year at the back as well. So they are more now than just Kane and Son. And that's the worry that we've got. The benefit that we have is that they are still questionable at the back. And, you know, they are questionable with their mentality and they are known as being bottlers. It's just what Spurs are. So they've always got that side to them that you think that in certain games, like we saw away, I think it was the away game at Burnley that they lost 1-0. Obviously, the Manchester United game. I mean, losing to this Man United team, I know that we've got a plan, but it's a very poor Man United team. And then they pull out weird results like winning at Manchester City. Like they show what they're capable of doing. And I think is that somehow teams haven't worked out how to beat them consistently. But what they keep doing is they keep playing into the way in which they want to play is by putting pressure on them, opening up loads of space behind you, and then they just kill you on the counter. And every team does it against Spurs, and they just fall into that trap that Antonio Conte sets for them every time. And that's my worry, that when we go to their grounds, is that we're going to do what we did and have done so many times against them at their ground, which is, you know, pile on the pressure, overcommit, and then leave massive gaps behind for Kane and Son to run into and just completely ruin us. I'm hoping that we've learned and matured. We've showed that this season against so many teams that we have come unstuck against in the past, like Wolves home and away, like Aston Villa home and away, like Leicester home and away, that we've won and got 18 points in those 6 games. I'm hoping that we see that same level of maturity and growth against Spurs, because it will have to be the first win since 2014 in the league, which is a joke in itself that we've not won in that many years. And I think that when it comes down to looking at who is the main rivals, you can't not look past them. Man United are an absolute joke of a side at the moment. And it might be me just being a little bit arrogant about it, but I just genuinely think that they are awful. And they're just not a team. And they don't really have a vision of what they want to do. And they're very disjointed and kind of focused around Ronaldo. And when you think that they wouldn't be as good when he's on the pitch because it's all focused through him, and you take him out of the team and they're still terrible. So it's very difficult to kind of put your finger on what's really wrong with them. They do really miss a manager, but Spurs don't. And that's why they're very much in the race as well as us.
100%. So if we were talking, well, we talk a lot offline to be fair, but we were talking about the Conte situation at Spurs and how that's given them a huge chance. And a lot of people were sort of laughing when they lost to Burnley and he came out and did his madness on the media. But I kind of knew that they were going to stick with him. He wasn't going to walk anywhere and they were going to start to win games. They're definitely the closest rivals in my opinion, and they definitely got the easiest run. I think it's going to be difficult to see them dropping a lot of points, but I do think that they will drop some points. They've got difficult games at Anfield. I think they've still got to go to Leicester, who are very unpredictable at the moment, but certainly when they've got their players back are a good side. And of course, they've got the North London derby. So they have got some difficult games. It's not a breeze and a walk in the park for them. But what have you made of Conte since, I think in 2022, I would say, because obviously Conte's come in and it looks to me as if he's really got things going. And when you can get Chicken Royale scoring, then trust me, you're doing something right. Ben Davies scoring. And of course, who was the other guy who scored today? Ben Davies, Chicken Royale. Who else, Tom?
Lucas Moura score. You get the fifth one?
Bergwijn,
sorry.
Another defender. It's 3 defenders. Doherty. So when you can get
Ben
Doherty,
Davies, the header.
Doherty, Ben Davies, and Chicken Royale all scoring, then you're doing something right in a Spurs manager there. So, Soph, talk to me about how much of a threat you think they're going to be.
I like the chicken royale. Whenever I hear his name, I picture John Travolta in Pulp Fiction talking to Sam Jackson about a royale with cheese, and he was so cheesy for so long. But I said on our show, and Kev's never afraid of Tottenham, and it's not like I'm afraid of Tottenham, but we had this conversation. And I said to him, the reason why they're prickly is because of Conte. He has this insane genius character and personality. He could be the dramatic, melodramatic Italian, a little bit like us Greeks. You could be very passionate and fiery. And then, it's like a Greek tragedy all of a sudden. And he has that personality that's very up and very down, and he doesn't hide it and he shows it. And one of my issues was always that Manchester United's manager's never been here before in the Premier League. Tom said it right in the sense of they're a hot mess. They've got great individual players, but they're not a team at all. And their manager's never been in this situation before. Now, Mikel Arteta has had 2 whole seasons now in the Premier League, but he's never been in this position before. Antonio Conte has with Chelsea. And he's been in these high-pressure situations with top-tier players and top-tier teams in multiple leagues. And he knows when to turn it on. And I think that what he's done is he's got his team finally believing in him, in what he wants to do. He seems to have the attention of every single player. And I agree with, I think Lee talked about them still being weak at the back. I mean, today you could argue that Newcastle's goal, Lloris should have really saved that. And he's got, a clanger in him as well. But because of their manager and because of his adaptability and what he's able to do in game management, which Ralph Rangnick, I think, has been so poor at for Manchester United, which is why they failed greatly. His in-game management is just not there. And I just don't think he's used to this type of environment with these types of players under this type of pressure, albeit what he's done, with other teams in Europe. So for me, I said to Kev, I hope cancelling the Tottenham game doesn't come back to bite us in the arse. Because at the time, Son was injured, and I know that we had a depleted squad, right? But Tottenham weren't that great either. And now you have a resurgent Harry Kane, you have a resurgent Son, you're talking about the new players who have come in, who have hit the ground running. They've got their midfield together somehow. I think they're very dangerous. And we have to win these next 3 games, and if we don't, we have to get a minimum of 7 points from them. Otherwise, we're going to be in a little bit of trouble. It's not going to be easy playing Chelsea. We've still got to play West Ham. We've got Manchester United. We've got the North London derby. Southampton are a bit of a bogey team for us. I mean, this isn't over. This is why it's like, let's just not talk about top 3 yet. Let's just focus on the task at hand. And I think Tottenham, at this point, have also got a hot hand. They're one of the hottest teams coming out of the international break. They've been, and it just pains me to say that I really hope cancelling that match when we did doesn't come back to bite us.
Yeah, I think you're right. Judges, I want to get your thoughts on Spurs, and I want to ask you this. Do you think the North London derby, which, by the way, I believe is now going to be the Thursday, the 12th of May, do you think that the top 4 could be done by then? Or do you think that game is still going to be up to play for who gets top 4?
Well, I think it'll still be important. Hopefully, we go there where if we get a result, then we're still going to the last game in our own hands, and that's what we've got to do. And I think that listen, when we go to Tottenham, if they've got to beat us, then let them come at us. Because I've watched games, and what I haven't seen the game today, but what people are saying is they was battering down, was all in Newcastle's half and never created a chance, because that's not their game. They can't break down teams. That's why they struggle. They went to Middlesbrough. Don't forget that. Couldn't break them down. If they go 1-0 in front, then you've got problems, because what happens is what Tom said earlier on, they can hit you on the break. The reason they beat Manchester City more than one occasion is because Manchester City are a team that goes bombing forward, and Tottenham are probably the best team on the counter-attack in the league, because Harry Kane drops deep, Son goes into the hole, and then they've got players that explode from there. Now, what you got to do is just defend properly against them. And if we have to take a 0-0 draw there, then so be it. And then try and pop them off there. What we don't want is what Tom said there, is going into a game with them when we're attacking them and then like leaving ourselves open. So, and I think that, play like we did against Aston Villa, and teams like that, Wolves, like we did there, and we'll be okay. Tottenham have got 6 points. Let's get this right. 6 points more than any other team in this top 4 race, because we haven't been able, like Manchester United, us and West Ham, and I don't think even Chelsea have got 6 points off from Man City. Take those 6 points off from Manchester City, which we haven't got, by the way, or no one else has got. They're out of it. But the reason they're in it is because what happens is they have got that attacking option. They've got Kane. But hold on a minute. What, not necessarily like, Kane going to be fit by that game. He might be injured by that game. Song might be injured by that game. Don't know. We don't know. No one knows yet, So, listen, if we'd have played Spurs when we did, whether Song was playing or not, we had no players. We would have lost that game.
Wouldn't you rather know? I'd rather have the points on the board than the games in hand. Or
I don't think we would have had any points on the board, so
that's fine. That's fine, but we would have had
a better chance.
We'd
have lost. They'd have had 3 more
hold
points.
Hold on, you just said who knows? Kane might be injured and Son might be injured, and now you're guaranteeing that we would have lost that game. We don't know that.
What I think the issue is that if we'd have played them then and lost that, you think about the damaging impact on some of the squad mentality. Instead of, this game being the third game before the end, you lose that game at that time, it's different. If the game was now, we have 10 games left, the hit on the mentality of losing the North London derby would have been massive. So I kind of feel like delaying it.
Who would have been our midfield?
Lokonga, Ødegaard and Smith Rowe would have been our midfield.
No, Smith Rowe was injured. Right, Ødegaard was out, by the way. Right, Saka was out injured. Cedric was out injured.
Ødegaard was COVID,
was
wasn't
out injured. You know what I mean? Who would have gone in at right back? We wouldn't have had no central defenders.
But you're saying one thing about like Son, Kane maybe getting injured, and then saying we would have lost that game. We don't know if we would have lost that game. I'd rather rather roll the dice on playing them without Son and look, Cedric is a star now. He could have played right back, right? So
he wasn't fit then.
We say these things. All right, Ben White could have played right back. Holden could have played centre back. Lokonga in midfield. El Neni. El Neni's come in and shone.
Wasn't
all right,
there.
pick another midfielder at the time. Who was there?
Would have played. Look what he done against Nottingham Forest. We was down on the bare back. I know what you're saying, but at the end of the day, they weren't there. Partey wasn't there.
Son is so dangerous. He's so lethal that and he could get into pretty much any team in the world, right? Barring maybe one. And I would rather have rolled the dice without him in Tottenham's team and a makeshift midfield than playing them now when Son and Kane have found their groove with better support around them. Personally, I would have rather have done that. And
I think it's a good point.
I just don't think that. I don't think Son is worth Xhaka and Partey and Ødegaard and Smith Rowe and Cedric and Tomiyasu and Nicolas Pepe coming off the bench is another option. I just don't think that Son alone and him being out is worth us not having all of those players. Yeah. I just don't. I understand the point, Sophie. I really do, about kind of having that game done. It's out the way. We move on, and we don't have to worry about that coming up. But I just
think that's more the point.
Yeah, the amount of players that we didn't have, and the fact that if we'd have lost that game, maybe we wouldn't win those games afterwards because of the mentality hit that it would have hit to us by losing that game. We've got that game to look forward to. But to be honest, I don't think we are. We're sitting here and we're talking about, what's success and failure, and we'll come on to that. But really, the Arsenal are just looking at the next game. They're just looking at trying to get 3 points against Crystal Palace. That's the best way that we can do it. But we don't know what's going to happen. But I do think that all of those players will have Son.
What Soph's saying, which is bang on, is like, if we wouldn't have had stuff getting away, then obviously Tottenham would be done by now. Chelsea would be done by now. Do you know what I mean? We would have actually had West Ham and United to look at and think, actually, our fixtures are looking not so bad now. But those 2 away games have really kind of put the nerves up.
Chelsea wouldn't have been done then. Chelsea wouldn't have been done.
But even if we'd have lost that game, our points now, we still would have had two games in hand on United. We'd be the same with Tottenham, and we'd be in the point situation we are with Palace to come. Like, there's no excuses at any point now in the season. There weren't any excuses. Every team had to deal with the injuries, with the pandemic, etc., etc. I'm just saying, like, if you look at it, it's one game and a game. I think that might come back to bite us in the arse, as could the United losing away at Old Trafford and the game against Everton.
Well, listen, how I look at it, if we lose to them, we lose to them. We would have lost to them in that game anyway. So, we've got.
And that's what I was going to say. That is what I was going to say. We've got to go there and win now. We've got to go there and win now.
I think we've got to go there and not lose.
Not lose. Not lose.
I don't want games called off for any reason. But that game there, look what we was like against Liverpool. The game at Anfield, we had which Cedric went off after 5 minutes in that game. We was down to 10 men. We'd lost Saka. We was gone, physically gone. You know what I mean? Like, we needed a break, and we in that run. By the way, in that run, we'd lost to Nottingham Forest.
But that was a game where Liverpool didn't have Salah and Mane. You know, that's a big difference. Look what they did to us when they still beat us.
They still beat us with him as well. They beat us with him and without him.
But I'm saying, like, even depleted with 10 men, we got out of Anfield that night with the hope that we could get to a League Cup final. So you just don't know how a team can come together.
Yeah. This is the thing. We're debating and we don't actually know what would have happened.
Let's go there and do that, Sophie. Let's go there and do that with our full team and defend like Trojans and get a result there. Like, I don't see. Listen, everybody's going on about Spurs as world beaters. They're not.
No, I never said that. Son, to me, is a great player who's exceptionally dangerous.
Him and Kane listen, I don't care what anybody says about Conte and Arteta. It's nothing about them. If Tottenham beat us to Champions League, it's because of two players. They've got two world-class players in their front line. We haven't got a world-class player. Arsenal have not got a world-class player. They've got two, and that will be the difference come the end of the season. If that's the case.
I disagree with that, Lee. I disagree with that because I think it's Conte ahead of Kane and Son. Because Kane and Son, they've always had Kane and Son.
They beat Man City with Nuno, mate, because they had Son and Kane.
Yeah, exactly.
But Nuno was never going to get him to top four, Tom. Nuno was never going to get him to top four, mate.
I think Pochettino's beaten them with Kane and Son in their prime.
Who was a good manager? Who's a good manager? That's what I'm saying. He's better than some of the managers in the Premier League, isn't he?
Well,
so that's my point.
If I'm not mistaken, Dan, that Conte was at Middlesbrough when with Son and Kane. The reason they didn't win that game is because Son and Kane didn't turn up. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. I'm pretty sure Conte was on the line. At the end of the day, it's all about what them two players do. They're quality players, and if they turn up, they turn up. You know what I mean?
If you took out Son and Kane and put in Lacazette and Martinelli, and this isn't a swipe on Martinelli by any means, it's just he's our starting left winger right now.
I have to pick Martinelli, Tom. Come on.
What, he's our starting left winger.
No, go on. I know what you do. I'm mucking on.
Lacazette and Martinelli come in for Son and Kane. Antonio Conte's not getting that team to top four with Lacazette and Martinelli as their striker and left winger over Son and Kane. He's just not. And that's why those two are the most important thing about Spurs.
I agree. Conte, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Because
I'm shocked what I'm hearing, but I'm listening. This is a debate, so what's.
But at the end of the day, you know what I mean. I'll go on it. Like, was Conte at Burnley, or did he not turn up at Turf Moor? I'm pretty sure Son and Kane were there that day.
Yeah, and you know what? They've lost them games, and you know they're still in the race. So I put that down.
Because on more than one occasion, Kane and Son will turn up. You know what I mean?
So why did Kane and Son not turn up for the first half of the season? They just didn't fancy it.
Kane was that whole Man City situation.
No one knows what's going on in the background.
So I think he's got. Yeah, listen, they're class. I can't sit there to say that they aren't, but I think Conte's got the best out of him too. Go on, Soph.
Dan, I would rather go into that North London derby. This is how much I value getting back into Europe in order to build on what we've done in the summer and to really turn this squad around to have the depth that we need to be able to really be legitimately competitively challenging season after season, build on every single window. I would rather go into that game, the North London Derby, the game before the penultimate game of the season, knowing the outcome already. Now, people will say, you're scared of Spurs. I'm not scared of Spurs.
Not quite
I'm
like that
scared,
all the time.
I'm scared of Son and Kane for sure, and what Antonio Conte can bring to the table in a high-pressure moment. I would rather go into that game knowing whether we've qualified or we're out of it.
Same.
Because I
don't think that's
cannot
gonna happen,
stand.
but I
I'm
would-
not going to
yeah.
be able to stand. For me, I'm thinking, wow, I'm starting to feel worse about the anticipation of this than the Champions League final between Liverpool and Tottenham, because that was the most horrific football day of anyone's Gooner life, right? So for me, I'd rather go into that. Let's do the business. Beat Palace. Beat, like Lee said, these next 3 games. Win those games, and then you've got like room for a draw, a mistake somewhere. But I'd rather go into that North London derby knowing, because I can't deal with the other outcome.
I see what you're saying there, Sophie, right? But Kane can score 10 goals in his next 10 games, right? Son can score 10 goals in his next 10 games, right? They can score 50 goals in their next 10 games, right? And if we win every game, they can't do anything about it. Nothing.
Yeah, but then
about
also, if they score all those goals, they're above us today on goal difference.
Yeah, but they still can't beat us, can they? If
They
we
can't
win
beat
every
us because of the
single
points
game.
No,
gap.
of course,
if
the
we
points
win-
differential. But are we going to win every single game?
Well, that's
think so.
the case. Well,
I
you're
think
saying
you're right,
Spurs are Spurs, but if Spurs win,
It's also interesting we talk about them having the easiest run as well of fixtures, because the interesting thing is that they've got to go to what we would describe as an easier run of games against teams you'd expect them to beat. But ironically, we've just been talking about how when Spurs come up against these types of teams, they've got to go at them. They're not going to have those teams coming at them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they're going to be going to places like Norwich and Burnley who are going to sit in and try and defend. Less so Norwich, of course, who are dreadful. But, you know, teams like Burnley are going to sit in and try and get result. And other
Leicester
teams are going
will
to try
sit
and
in.
do that as well.
I actually think Villa will get something out of them. There's
I
something
hope
about
so.
that game that
Bloody
makes
hope
me
so.
feel that Gerrard's
playing great,
Gerrard's
though, are they?
no, but he's pissed, you know. And I
Yeah.
think they kind of go 2-3, win 1, 2-3. You know, they're a bit topsy turvy, aren't they? But
Yeah, no, you're
that's
right,
a banana
you're right.
skin game for them for sure.
Yeah.
But
Talking of
listen,
Villa-
the longer that game goes on, if Villa can keep it tight, Spurs will struggle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they will struggle. Like you know what I mean? So they've got Leicester, which is a difficult game. Leicester will sit in. You know what I mean? Like you break us down and all that, like you know. But ultimately, it is in our hands. It's still in our hands.
And
Arsenal
that's a great point, Lee. That is ultimately the point that matters, is that we need to concentrate on us. And if we do that, then it's all it's all us. Talking of Villa, I don't want to go into because I ain't got time, but that was an unbelievable penalty that I saw yesterday with Wolves and Villa. I don't quite understand that one at all, but there we go.
Well,
that's
so
another.
exactly. Decisions like that can happen as well. You know what I mean? Like
It's
a real-
absolute.
We don't
Might
want
be
to
decisions
mate.
again this weekend.
What about the Cresswell?
Unbelievable.
Did anyone else think that Cresswell should have been red carded for like what he did to Richarlison?
Richarlison, yeah.
I didn't see it.
I didn't
Check
see
it
it,
out.
no.
and
All right,
then,
Wenger.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Yeah, I finally watched the documentary today, by the way, Invincible. Very good. Brought back lots of memories.
It is good. It just
and I'm on
annoyed
it as
me
well.
at the end. It really
I'm actually in
annoyed
it with my dad, standing there with me, all my mates in the crowd as well, which was quite a surprise to me because I didn't know that. But there we go. Anyway, I want to talk, Tom, quickly about where we stand at the moment in relation to some of the other clubs. We saw this weekend Manchester United yet again. You've already mentioned it, to be fair. They're a club that are just, I don't even know what to call them anymore. It's just a surprise to me. They have got match winners, but I don't look at any of their players and see a team. I don't see a manager that has any idea of how to get the best out of them. And I think, again, we've seen a very lucky performance, if I'm honest, Tom, to get anything out of that, in my opinion. I thought Leicester deserved, who, by the way, weren't exactly great, but I think definitely deserved to win the game. And West Ham and Wolves have managed to get wins, but is it fair to say those 3 teams are looking like they're out of it, or do you think Man United and the others are still in it?
Man United aren't out and like solidly out of it, because at the end of the day, despite our, you know, what we can laugh at them about and our criticisms of them, they have still got those players. They have still got Ronaldo. They have still got Fernandes. They have still got Sancho. They have still got some very, very, very good players. And all it takes is one game for them to click, and then, you know, all of a sudden they've won 5 in a row. This is a team that, you know, went on a back-to-back away successive win record that was ridiculous. Not so long, I think it was even last season. So look, they're a side that can come alive. The positive for us is that, you know, we can open up, I think, a 9-point gap to them if we win our games in hand, which would be massive for us over them. But as you say, they're just a team that are disjointed, and ironically, they look very like Arsenal a couple of years ago. And you know, the thing is there. So for all the criticisms that we've had over Mikel Arteta, I really bank on Arsenal coming out of the phase that I see Man United in now a lot more positively than I do them. Even if it's especially if they were to say go for an Erik ten Hag as their coach, who has thrived in an Ajax institution, for instance, built upon youth production, built upon selling and, you know, investing smartly and having a team that dominates most of the Eredivisie as well. I think if they go for a Ten Hag, it's just the wrong choice. I'd be more concerned if they brought in a Pochettino, who I think is just a very good coach and someone who can get the best out of plenty of players. If they go for Ten Hag, you know, I really would think that's the one I would hope that they get, because I don't see him as a real threat. And I'm sure that'll be memed if he turns out to be a title winner with them. But, you know, just based upon what he's done and where he's at right now, I just think that they'd be smarter going for a Poch. But yeah, Wolves and West Ham, I think are out of it, Daniel.
I think it's going to be interesting where Man United go from here, because they're going to be in a situation. I like what you said there, Tom, about how they compare us to us, because they've got like an Ozil and Sanchez, haven't they, and Bruno and Ronaldo, and then the rest of the side are a little bit hit and miss. And I think personally that they have what I would want as a Man United fan is Diego Simeone coming in and turning around and demanding the best, and being what Man United should be, is demanding the best. But they might want to go down the approach of what Arsenal have done. They might want to, whether that's right or wrong is up to the fans. But they might want to start again, rip it up, go for a Ten Hag or a Poch, and look to go for a younger coach like that, and back them in the next 5 years, write the next couple of years off and say what Arsenal have done is the right way, and we believe it's the right way to go for the next 4 or 5 years as Manchester United, and try and get them back to the top. I think personally, if I was a United fan, I'd want to see Simeone come in, who's a winner, a little bit like Tottenham have done with Conte, and just get the best of what you can with that team, get the right recruitment in the summer, and go from there. So, what's your thoughts on United, West Ham, and Wolves? Do you think they're in or out of the top 4 race now?
I think Wolves are definitely out. I think West Ham, we got 3 games in hand on them. We've got to play them as well. They have, 1 game in hand over Manchester United. Manchester United have 1 game in hand over them. So it's going to be tougher for them. They're definitely a team that has to win most of their matches, as do Manchester United. Manchester United have got Everton, Norwich, Liverpool, us. Then they have Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea, and Crystal Palace. And I just think that they're getting a little bit too far away from it now. But let's say they beat us, they beat Chelsea. You know, they have kind of some of those big games. I think they're too much of a hot mess to be able to pull all those kinds of results together. And people kind of want to rag on Ronaldo, but, you know, he saved them so many times. I just don't think he's going to be able to do that over and over again. So I think it's between us and Tottenham. I really do. I would never count United out, but they're a different United now. They're not the same. Like when people talk about Arsenal, it's a really good comparison. You know, how the mighty have fallen. 2 teams that were the greatest rivals in the inception of the Premier League, dominated it for so long, and football's so cyclical. Now look at United. They're going on how many years now without winning the Premier League? 7? You know, say what they want about Mourinho. He's the last manager who won them. Van Gaal won the Cup. Mourinho won the Europa League and the League Cup. But in the Premier League, they've been useless or just finishing second to their fiercest rivals, which we know, with Tottenham finishing above us the last 5 or 6 seasons, just not good enough. So I think it's between us and Spurs because of the games in hand, and and that's scary in itself without having to worry about Man United.
Maybe it is. I think we've answered this already, Chaitanya. I hope we have anyway, but thank you for your super chat. I asked Lee earlier, do you think the top 4 come down to the North London derby? And I think we've agreed that potentially it could do, and we have got the capability of winning away. Judges, let's come to you quickly before we start talking about success and failure for the last 20 minutes or so. I want to talk about your thoughts on Manchester United and their kind of project at the moment. And do you think they're still in the top 4 race?
Well, they're still in it because they've got a chance. And I think someone said in the chat earlier on, they've probably got a better chance of beating teams away from home than at home at the moment, the way that they play. For me, Manchester United, the reason that we're in this top 4 race is because of Manchester United's failings. Simple as that. Like, you know, when they got rid of Oli, they should have gone and got the manager that they wanted, changed things around. They didn't. So it's down to them that Arsenal and Tottenham are chasing the top 4, because realistically, there's no way with that squad of players that they should be where they are. So even though where they are is where they are, that always gives me a bit of a worry, because potentially they can turn up anywhere and get a result. Like they did against Tottenham, by the way, because that performance against Tottenham was Ronaldo winning that game. Other than that, I haven't seen them do anything since then. Like, you know, I thought that they was poor against Leicester. I only see the highlights, but I thought Leicester should have won the game. Simple as that. Like, you know, they're not a team. I agree with what Tom says. They're not a team. So Man United have given us the opportunity to take up top 4 and go through the door. We've got to take it. It's as simple as that. Like, you know, it's a 3-horse race now between Chelsea, Arsenal, and Tottenham. The reason being for West Ham is that maybe an Arsenal, maybe a Tottenham will fail, but not both of them will. Not both of them will capitulate. One might, but you know, they've got to hope that even Manchester United to a certain degree capitulate as well, like, because if they win a few games, then it's going to be very, very difficult. So I don't see West Ham in it. But I've got a sneaky feeling we might actually see them in the Champions League next year via the Europa League. I don't see why they couldn't go and win that. I've been impressed with West Ham as a team. I think that ultimately what will let West Ham down is too many games. You know, I mean, too much reliability on Antonio, a couple of players out in the games that they've had. Now, they've not got a big squad, but they had a lot of games. Arsenal have got not a big squad, but not so many games. So I do feel that's been beneficial for us. And I really think that Wolves have given it a great go. But again, as what I'm saying with Wolves is that I think they've got to win every single game, same as West Ham. It's going to be very, very difficult to do that. So it comes down to Arsenal and Spurs. Listen, that game at the Emirates, we're going to be under pressure against Man United. Don't think we're going to go into that game going, oh yeah, we're going to win this game. They're poor and whatever. Like, they've still got players that can hurt you.
Well, we said that Old Trafford, Lee, didn't we? We went into Old Trafford.
Yeah,
thinking,
well,
you know,
when we was disappointed. We didn't put in one of our better defensive performances that night. We was poor defensively, you know. But listen, we're going to have the home crowd on us. It'll be a big game. We've got 3 massive games coming up after these 3 games. And that's why I keep going on about we must win these 3 games, because the 3 games after that are Chelsea away, Manchester United at home, West Ham away. You know, on a good day, you'd like to think, you know, like 6 points would be great out of that 5 or whatever, like, you know. So you are pushing the boundaries there. And then you're going to hope that Liverpool get a result against Spurs. People keep going, that's a format for. I don't think it is. I think that Spurs, you know, Liverpool will have to be going forward, chasing it. You know what I mean? Like, you're playing into Spurs' hands by doing that. That's not a formality, like, you know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough ask. But ultimately, these next 3 games are going to be crucial to Arsenal Football Club, crucial to Arteta. When I look at it, though, if you're going to get top 4 and nail it, you've got to nail Crystal Palace away. You've got to beat Brighton at home, and you've got to nail Southampton away. If you're going to be in the top 4, you have got to get those results. And I'm pretty sure that the Arsenal in the yellow kit will.
Let's hope so, mate. I so hope that you're right, and I'll be there tomorrow night as well, and I can't wait. Tom, let's talk a little bit about the name of this show, shall we? Success or failure. Now, a lot of people think that's harsh because it's too black and white, but I actually disagree. I think football is pretty black and white when you look at a league table. You know, the league table doesn't lie. The end of your season, you were either being successful as your season or you have been unsuccessful in your season. So I want to ask the panel, and start with you, Tom, what success looks like and what failure looks like this season.
See, the thing about this question is that
there's so
much context. Like, there's so much context.
I tried so hard.
I know you
tee
did.
it up for you, like, you know what I mean?
The word this
I knew
season.
you were going to do it, mate.
Yeah, look, because at the end of the day, like, Arsenal are a side, as you say, quite rightly, Dan, that should be up challenging for titles, that should be in the Champions League year on year, because that's the size of this club. So success for Arsenal Football Club is winning Premier League titles and winning the Champions League. Now, Arsenal have not been in that position for a very, very long time. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And in my opinion, based upon where we've been, you don't turn from where we have been in the last decade plus into title challengers and Champions League winners like that. You don't. And it takes years, in my opinion, to change the mistakes that have been made at this club and the awful decisions that have been made behind the scenes. And from the perspective of kind of from an ownership that, you know, up until 2018 weren't really invested in what was going on because they didn't have full control of what was going on. So that's kind of the context applied to what I think about Arsenal and what success and failure is. In regards to this specific season, if Mikel Arteta didn't qualify for Europe for a third season in a row, he had to go without a shadow of a doubt. There's no question. Had to leave. We had to give someone else a go at trying to take this thing forward. However, what we've seen is this season is progression. We've seen improvement. We've seen 6 signings come through the door off the back of decisions made by the manager in combination with those behind the scenes. And all of those 6 signings have had a positive impact on this season. Even Lokonga and Tavares, if you look at the first half of the season, were integral to certain wins that we got and picked up points because of performances that those two put in. And then you've got Ramsdale and Tomiyasu and Ødegaard and White that have been brilliant, as we know. So we're moving in the right direction. I can see a clear style of play. You think about the way in which we're beating sides now. We're doing it with flair. We're doing it with attractive football. You know, we're playing against teams like Manchester City on New Year's Day, and we were the team that deserved to come out of that game with more. If it weren't for 10 minutes of madness against Liverpool, we could have come out of more in that game as well. And these aren't performances that we saw recently. We would get battered by City home and away, or they wouldn't have to get out of second gear to beat us. You know, we're going in that right direction, but it does take time. And I like what's happening. What is success this season? Success, I said at the start of the year, was getting back into Europe, not in the Conference League, but the Europa League was the minimum expectation for me at the start of the season, especially after we lost those first 3 games because of the squad situation that we had. We had so few players available. And I think now, with the opportunity that we've got to get into the top 4, to not get Champions League would be a massive disappointment. I struggle, though, to brand it a failure because of what the context of this season was moving forwards. But I would be so disheartened if we didn't get top 4 because of how well we've done. And it's not all to do with, you know, Spurs dropping points or United dropping points and not being as good as we expect them to be, because you've still got to get the points on the board to position yourself to give you a chance. And we've done that. And we've done that with the youngest squad in the league as well. So to be where we are and to be in the position that we're at is an achievement, but it's not achievement. It's not like goal achieved. If you know what I mean? It's something to be, you know, like, yay, look where we are right now. But you got to finish it off. You got to see it through. And if we don't, you know, I think we need to have a long conversation about why and what happened so that we didn't get to the top 4. But when people kind of put it into black and white terms of failure is not getting top 4, so therefore he should go. Success is top 4, so he should get a new contract. To say that the line is one place between a new contract and sacking, I think is mad. I think that's crazy. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'm happy with what's happening. I'm happy with the progress we're making, and I think that if we get top 4, it'd be great. If we get 5th, it'll be a really big disappointment. But I would struggle to describe it as an outright failure.
Sophie, let's come to you. Unai Emery and Arsene Wenger lost their jobs because of not getting into the Champions League. Does Arteta deserve to keep his job if he doesn't get Arsenal into the Champions League this season after spending $250 million, 1 game a week, and everything else that's happening around him in relation to Manchester United and Spurs? Oh, you're on mute. Otherwise, is that just me?
Sorry. You can't be the manager who got us kicked out of Europe after being in Europe for 20 plus years and have 3 opportunities at it and not get us back into what you created. My humble opinion, in football, you have to get results. Now, I've been very harsh on Arteta. 8th, get kicked out of Europa League. I've given my opinion based on the things I've seen, and this season, seen things obviously improve. I've given him a lot of credit on our show, and deservedly so. Like Tom said, we have a style, We have a togetherness. We've all talked about chemistry, the connectivity between the fans and the players. I also think the players have had a huge, huge part to play in that. DNA of Benjamin White is different. The DNA of Ramsdale's different. Tomiyasu is different. Even the Nunos and the Lokongas. Lokonga was captain of Anderlecht, playing under Vincent Kompany. They're just cut from a different cloth. You see that they care. They want to fight for their place, and they want to play for the Arsenal. Very different culture now. And the manager and Edu have had a lot to do with that. Credit to them. But you can't laud them and give them all this credit and then not be able to, as a fan, suggest that if they do not get us back into Europe, you have to start asking serious questions again. Remember the season Leicester won the Premier League? Everyone around in that top 6, 7 was having a poor season. There was transition in some of the biggest clubs. And this season, teams that are supposed to be really good aren't. I mean, like I said earlier, Chelsea not that great. Look at United struggling again. Liverpool City on another planet. But everyone else, if we don't capitalize on this moment, having found ourselves in the improbable situation with everyone around us a little weaker, I think that it's a failure to not get back into Europe. And by Europe, I mean Champions or Europa League. Europa League is a vehicle back into the Champions League. And even when we had Europa League, we were able to sign Aubameyang, Lacazette, Tierney, Gabriel. We were able to sign players, good players, because we're able to offer European football. Players want to play in Europe. If you want to get the Vlahoviches of the world or the Nkukus or any of these players that everyone's talking about, you have to be able to offer European football. That's what they want. That's what the Arsenal Football Club should also be in the business of. So I hope it's not like that disappointing season where all of a sudden, after that Leicester game, Welbeck scores that goal. Oh my God, we're going to win the Premier League. It was insane. And now here we are. It's in our hands. And even worse if we lose out, Dan, after it being in our hands.
Yeah, massive points there, Ray, Soph, and I do agree with a lot of what you've said. Judges, let's come to you for the similar question. Success and failure, or whether you see it like that or not. What does it look like for you coming into the last quarter of this season for Arsenal?
Success is top 4 this season. Failure is not getting top 4, and I'll tell you why. If we get to a cup final, we're playing Manchester City in a cup final. Okay? Who's favourite? Man City. After 1 minute, they've got someone sent off. Who's favourite? So
good point.
So if they get 2 players sent off in 20 minutes, and you'd ended up losing that game, you'd be disappointed, wouldn't you?
It's
and this is
great
what's
analogy.
We've been handed an opportunity to get into top 4 by some other team doing something stupid. That being Man United. The opportunity is there now for us to take it, and we have to take it. If we don't, we're out of it. You know what I mean?
So if we get top 4, Lee, are you saying we got top 4 because Man United and Spurs weren't at it this season?
No, because
But that's what you're saying now.
No, I'm telling you this now. I'm looking at Arsenal as they are at the moment. The points and the way they're playing is where I expected them to be. And I think Tottenham, I'm expecting them to be there. I never in this world expected Manchester United to be where they are. I expected them to be a bit further up the table. And I expected us to be on the same sort of points as we are now. And at the end of it, probably coming 5th or 6th, Tom. You know what I mean? Nothing's changed from Arsenal's point of view. I don't think we've done anything that we shouldn't be doing. The teams we've lost to, I've expected us to lose to, apart from probably Everton and Brentford, but we've beaten other teams as well. So I think at the end of the season, we're having a season. I think we're exactly where we're on course to finish where I think we should finish at the end of the season, probably with the points tally 5th or 6th. The fact of the matter is that Manchester United have not done what they've done. Has left the door open for us, and it's up to us to get that. And that's how I do believe it. I don't think that Arsenal are having a wonderful season. I'll be honest with you. I expected this from Arsenal this season to be really consistent and challenging for a top 5, top 6. Nothing's changed from that point of view. The reason that we're talking about 4th is because of a capitulation of a Man United side. When Man United signed Ronaldo, I thought that they was actually going to challenge for the title, not being a battle for top 4. I thought the title race was going to be between 4. Now, Chelsea have fallen away from that a little bit, like, you know what I mean? And I think that we could actually get third, Tom, but that is not through. I still think that we would be doing what we're doing, on course for what we're doing. I think Chelsea would probably look at it and think, you know what, we ain't done as well as what I expect. When Chelsea got Lukaku, I never thought that they'd be where they are. I know one of my mates had a bet with another one of my mates, and he turned around and he said, I'll tell you this now, Lukaku won't get 20 goals this season. All right. And I looked at him and I thought, well, you want to take that bet? You want to take that bet? But it's just not worked out for Chelsea as well as it should do. It certainly hasn't worked out for Man United. So that's my feeling. I think Arsenal at this moment in time are doing what they should be doing. I don't think that we should be, you know, like if we was, say, 6 points off it, I'll be saying it's a failure, because you know what, we'd be in 7th or 8th again. The fact of the matter is we're the ship's sailing. If everything was going to plan with the other clubs, we'd be like looking at it and going for 5th or 6th. And I think there is, but we've had an opportunity now that's been given to us to get top 4. I never thought it was going to happen, to be honest. But where we are at this moment in time, Tom, I expected us to be in this sort of points form and where we are. You know what I mean?
I just think it's harsh to say that it's been given to us. I think we've done it ourselves. I feel like we've positioned ourselves to put us in this, like, to win the games that we've won.
We've done our job properly. You know what I mean? No. We've done for the players that we've got and what we've got, we've done exceptionally well. Like, yes, I agree. But this is where I'm not going to go. We should be like, you know, in this time next season, Tom. This is a failure, by the way, where we are now, because we've got.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? But you've got to start somewhere, and then this is where we are now. We're on a road. We're on a path. I do think that we've done well, but I feel that the fact is that we're where we are because of other teams. Yeah,
we're only 3 points. We're only 3 points ahead of Man United and 1 game in hand. That's with 10 games to go. Those are fine margins. So as bad as they've been, you know, they could still catch us. Exactly. We still have to play them.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying we've done nothing yet. We're nothing special, are we? Like these other teams, Tottenham have had their failings, and Man United have their failings, but ultimately in 3 or 4 weeks they could all be above us, and we'd be going, well, you know, and that's not, you know, there we go. I think at the end of the day, listen, everybody keeps going on, you know, and on about things at the moment. I expect Arsenal Football Club to win these next 3 games. They're games that you have to win. And if they don't win those games, I'm looking at that, and that's a failure. If you cannot go and get results against Crystal Palace, by the way, Crystal Palace at the beginning of the season had 7 players, 7 first team players available to them. And now, you know, we've had 3 years of this. So now you've got a team now that has got themselves to the semi-final. By the way, I've got to say, Patrick Vieira, fantastic job, absolutely unbelievable. You know what I mean? But this is the time for Arsenal now. Please, you know, like this not sugarcoat it. We've got a chance to get ourselves into the top 4. Bloody well take it. And do you know what? I think we will. I really do. I'm really cool. I love the way we're defending at the moment. Do I think that we was going to defend as well as what we have? No, but come on. At the end of the day, we spent a lot of money on Tomiyasu. We spent a lot of money on Gabriel. We spent a lot of money on Ben White. None of them players, I don't think, if I'm right in saying it, and I include Ramsdale in this, any of them are under £20 million.
So if we're all saying that, not all, but a lot, and I'm reading the comment on screen right now, why are people giving Arteta so much credit then if the only reason we're in the position we're in is because other teams around us have failed? I think that's a little bit harsh to suggest.
It's ridiculously harsh.
That it's all down to the fact that teams around us. I said in my comment, it would be a failure to not capitalize because teams around us aren't that great. But when we're when we're kind of going through still a major transition, and you know, believe me, I've been critical of Arteta. I just think that to suggest that we'll finish there just because everybody else is garbage is a little bit harsh. I mean, I think the team
do you think it's
and the
great
manager
that
deserve
Arsenal have lost 8 games? Do you think that's great that Arsenal have lost 8 games?
But this is the thing about Arsenal and Manchester United. We're not the Arsenal we used to be, and Manchester United are not the Manchester United they used to be.
I'm not saying they're
so
not.
I'm not surprised.
8
It's not.
games acceptable.
Of course it's not,
Lee,
but that's who we
Well,
are
then
right
so
now.
what I'm saying is it's about where we should be, isn't it? 8 games. If Arsenal lose 8 games a season, I'm looking at it and going, well, that's about right. That's about right for where we are, isn't it?
But what losing 8 games? We're not like Liverpool, Chelsea,
I'm not saying that we are. But like,
Man
I'm
City.
saying where we are with 8 games. That where if you
Okay,
lose 8
the
games
same
in the league,
Manchester
where should we
United,
be?
the same Manchester United you say are garbage, right? Beat us
I'm not.
at
I'm
Old
not
Trafford.
saying
No.
I'm not saying-
Okay, but you're saying like because they're poor, right? They beat us at Old Trafford. Now, you could say that the manager got it wrong that night because we were dominating that game. We should have gone in for the kill. We didn't. We sat back too much and we allowed them to come back into the match and boom, we got sucker punched. But I think we're a little bit less naive at this point in the season than we were when we played Manchester United at that point of the season, even when we played Everton. Clearing Aubameyang out has really helped, I think, manifest a totally different type of, tactical nous on the pitch, giving more permission to these players to be who he wanted them to be and wants them to be. So they beat us. They could beat us again.
100%.
Lee, would you sack it if you
Are we
finish
agreed?
fifth?
Are we agreed? Are we agreed?
I'm just saying. How many games did Arsenal lose last season? I don't know.
13.
13 games, right? 8 games, to lose 8 games. I would expect. I don't think that's anything to write home about. I ain't going to turn around and say that's a fantastic season. We'll probably lose another couple by the end of the season. So 10 games is not what I'm going to go, wow, that's great. I think we're in a very, very good position. We're doing well. But ultimately, I don't think there's something we can go, right, that's great and all that. You just turn around and said about Conte and people like that, you know what I mean? Like, they've lost 10 games, Tottenham, and everybody's glorifying about Tottenham at the moment and everything like, At the end of the day, Arsenal are on course to where they should be. I think at the end of the day, 54 points at this moment in time, decent. I think it's decent, right? At the end of the day, but if we don't go, if we don't go on and get top 4, who's getting top 4 then? If we don't get so you're all saying, yeah, it's all great now. That's fantastic. We're going to finish in top 5. We're happy with Europa League.
I just said I'd like Arteta sacked if we don't get back into Europe because he's
one of the
major reasons why we got kicked out of Europe.
Why are we happy with 5th?
Because it's a route back into Europe. We can attract. Okay,
it's progression.
He gets us back into Europe. He was responsible for having horrific a tactical game plan against the man he replaced. Humiliating that was. Any other club is sacking him after those 2 legs. Period. Right? But they gave him the benefit of the doubt. He's got to get us back into Europe. So, Europa League, Lee, we signed Aubameyang and Lacazette, Thomas Partey, Tierney, Gabriel with Europa League football. Some of our best players now.
You are accepting, right, that to come 5th, that you're accepting that Spurs are going to get 4th. Why?
I'm not accepting. You asked me a question. I'm giving you an answer. I'm not accepting
it. You turned around and said you're happy with 5th.
I'm not happy. Happy with saying using the statement "happy with 5th" is so disingenuous to the feeling of getting 5th this season. Not getting 4th this season is a big disappointment. However, the line between keeping or giving a new contract and sacking Arteta is not between 4th and 5th, because if you look at the changes that have been made at this club, the way in which we're moving forwards, we are moving in the right direction. If you're saying that we miss out on 4th place this season, that you want to scrap everything that we've done up to this point and go back to square one with a new coach.
All I've turned around and said, it's a failure. I'm not saying.
So would you sack him if we finish 5th?
Huh?
Would you sack him if we finish 5th?
No, I never said that.
It can't be a failure, because if you failed, you would get rid of the person in charge.
Getting to a Champions League final success, but it's still failure. There's a thin line between success and failure. I'm saying at the end of the day, listen, Mikel Arteta has done fantastically well. And if we was to end up, I don't know, Tom, like if we win our next 5 games and we miss out by a couple of points, at the end of the day, we've improved and we end up 5th. Tottenham are better. It will come down, as Dan said earlier on, and you're going to get all of that come out. It's because of the manager. That's what they're going to come out and say. I guarantee you. what's
It
going to
will
come
be,
out.
yeah, but it's more so
Right?
because of Kane and Son.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that again.
Well, they could go on
Done
about
that,
the transfer
done that.
window. But ultimately, I'm saying at the end of the day, I think Arsenal at this moment in time, I think Arsenal will get top 4 because I think the way they're playing and the way we're structured is going to take us.
But
to
you're
top
also
4.
saying that 5th is a failure.
Because listen. If Man United,
So you wouldn't want to
some of
sign
those-
another. You wouldn't want to sign another style, a Thomas Partey style player, or a Gabriel, or a Tierney, or any of the.
What
the
Tottenham
type
going to
of-
sign? And if they get top 4, then they're going to have.
We have to focus as much as we're talking about everything around us. We have to focus on our own journey, where we're going. Right,
Yeah, but if it's
and
a failure
Tottenham, just
now,
because
so
Tottenham
the
get into
context
the
of it.
Champions League, it doesn't mean number one they're going to win it, and number two, will they be able to attract great players? Yes, perhaps because Antonio Conte has the pedigree to be able to do that. But we have to have European football in order to progress our own journey, whether it's the Champions League or the Europa League. Of course, we all
I
want to
agree with
finish
that.
fourth.
I totally agree with that.
But I am
totally-
not going to say, and I will state it now, that this is a successful season if them lot down the road are in 4th and we're in 5th. I'm not accepting it. That's not what I'm.
No
I'm
one
not
wants them
accepting.
finishing above us like ever.
But
No
you're
one
saying
wants
that-
that.
you're
It
saying that
hasn't
we're
been
gonna
St.
come-
Totteringham's Day for 6 years now? This is the opportunity, yes, but if it doesn't happen, we have to have Europa League at least in order to be able to move this narrative along, to continue rebuilding this Arsenal.
I agree with that. I totally agree. Look, listen, the way it's going now, we're going to get either Champions League football or Europa League football, one of the two. If we come outside the tops, if we get Conference League football this season,
It's
that
horrific.
is horrific.
It's awful. He
We
goes. He
ain't
goes.
gonna
Without a
get
shadow of a
that.
doubt.
We're
Yeah,
gonna come-
he has
we're
to be
gonna-
fired
I think
if that
we're either going
happens.
to come 5th or 4th. That is what I do believe. I do believe that we're either come
Listen, it's
4th,
going to be
5th.
unbearable if they finish 4th and we finish 5th. It's going to be horrific.
And I'm not going to laud it then. And I'm not going to laud it and be happy about it.
No one's
I'll
saying
tell
to
you that
laud
now.
it, but at least it gives us a bargaining chip in the transfer market. And
I
the
agree.
Arsenal Football
I'm not
Club
gonna be
is
happy
still
about it.
a big club. Maybe we're not doing big things in the Premier League. We're still a big club, but we can attract better players if we can dangle that Europa League carrot, just like we did with the players I mentioned in the years where we did have European football. This is a big 10 games for Mikel Arteta. If he
100%.
fails to deliver, and we do somehow end up finishing in 6th place, there's no question, no sane Arsenal fan would accept that and want that. But
Well, I'll tell you this now. I'm going to say it now. I still think I think we get 3rd. I think we're pushed for 3rd. I really do. I think the way we're playing,
That is a great way to come to an end.
the way we're playing, the way we're defending, right? I think the way we're playing, the way we're defending, I'm going to look at it as a fact because I don't see the way we're playing at the moment. I don't see us failing. I really don't think that we're good enough to get
The
there.
thing that bothers me, Lido, is just like, and look, Turkish was in the chat earlier and put that comment up on the screen. I hate this
What
narrative
I did?
around. I hate
What
this
was it?
narrative around we're being given
Put it up,
this
Dan, please.
position. It's further up the chat. I can't do it.
Try and find it now. Go on, Tom.
This narrative that we're being given this position, or without those other teams messing up, we wouldn't be here. We can only focus on the results and the games that we play. We're not responsible for the results.
Why are you
of
worried
other
about
teams.
Spurs then?
Because they've
Why-
got
why-
2
why-
world-class players and they're our nearest rivals for top 4 league. That's why I'm worried about Spurs.
It don't matter. That's what I'm saying. We don't care.
Absolutely. But what the point is that if we finish 5th, it's because we were worse than 4 other teams this season. That's the only reason why we finished 5th is because we were worse than 4 other teams. Then we have to have a chat and talk about why that is. And if why we finish 5th means that we can't move on to that next stage next season with everything that we have and the hopeful investment and whatever improvements we make.
I agree, Tom, but I'm telling you this now, right? We are a better team than Spurs. They've got 2 world-class players.
We're a better team. We are.
We're a better team. So we're going to come down, and I know Dan will agree. It's going to come down then to Arteta or Conte, isn't it? Because I think Arsenal got a better team. I'm not having it.
There we go. So that's
But
what I'm
earlier
saying.
you said that the only reason Spurs could get top 4 is because of Kane and Son, and Conte wasn't a factor.
That's because we get 3rd, Soph.
That's epic.
Do you know what?
Top
Can
boy,
I,
top
can I
boy.
just
We are
can I
getting top four, right? Because we're good enough to get top four, like, yeah.
Can I
So
just
epic.
say just quickly where I'm coming from, and it's a comment that just basically is what I wanted to say, and I'll put this to Tom and Soph because I'm actually more on Lee's side here. That I think that the reason we were out of Europe was so that we could get a chance of going for top four and just to get back into Europe. I don't see that as a success personally. So I'm with Lee. I think it is a failure this season if we don't get top four. So DJ Viewer said, sorry, the boundary keeps on being moved. Last year, it was great that we didn't have European football because that gave us a chance to get top four. But if we just get back into, I don't know why that's gone down. Dave's moved it out as I was just about to read it.
Dave!
Basically saying if we were,
I think it was
we
me.
come
I'm
out of
pressing
Europe, here we
button.
go.
I'm trying to look at.
Oh,
I'm
Lee.
trying
Here
to
we
find
go.
Turkish's one. I think it was me.
Don't have I've already put it up, Lee. Turkish's one. It's already you're behind. You're behind.
Right.
Don't have European football to get top four. If it's back into the Europa League after one game a week, then it's a failure. So personally, I agree. I agree with that. And I think we have to look at how far we've fallen as a club, that we are saying that it is absolutely fine to stick with the way things are if we're getting into the Europa League after spending $250 million, being one game a week, not having European football, going out of the FA Cup in the first round and the League Cup playing pretty much a B team until we got Liverpool and got knocked out. That to me is not a successful season coming into the Europa League. On top of that, Tottenham and Manchester United and even now Chelsea falling away. West Ham and Wolves must be laughing, thinking, how have we even got a chance of getting into the Champions League? West Ham, being in Europe, not playing one game a week like us, have put himself in with a thin squad, let's be honest, that's not as good as Arsenal's, in my opinion, have got a chance still at top four. So I asked the question, why was it okay to sack Wenger and Emery for not getting us Champions League, but it's okay to give Arteta more of a chance because you like the way some of the signings. I like some of the signings. I like the project. I like the recruitment. I like what he's done with the connect to the fans. I like some of the stuff Arteta's done. But if that's only good enough to get us into the Europa League, I demand more than that. So for now. So if we get next season where we have not one game a week and he can't get us this squad into the Champions League with one game a week, what makes us think we're going to get into the Champions League next year? That's
because we would have gone that next step forwards, wouldn't we? Because we would have had that next chance to, improve the squad even more. This young group of players have another year together. They're another year older, and they approach the season in the next step. I fear that so many Arsenal fans look at it in such a binary fashion that there's just it's yes or no, it's success or failure, like we've named this show. Like it isn't so binary. And, there is context that needs to be applied to every single option that we have. And I just think that when you look at the progression of this team, you look at how far this club fell and has fallen, it doesn't change with the snap of a finger. It doesn't change in 2.5 years. It doesn't change with £250 million invested. And we can all talk about saying, oh, what would this manager do with that money or that manager do with that money? Arsenal have pissed away over £1 billion on transfers since 2007, since Stan Kroenke first got involved with this club. Over £1 billion, and we fell out of Europe. It is going to take so much to turn this around. And we are moving in the right direction. And you can reel off the list of positives that have changed in the last 18 months, in the way that we play, in the signings that we make, in the way in which we overhaul the squad and deal with players, in which we unify most of the fan base with the manager. You look at the Emirates atmosphere. You look at everything that this club has done over the last 18 months to push us back to where we want to be. And we're going in the right direction. There is a very small minority, a vocal few that aren't happy with things. And, I think that draws more on a personal vendetta against Arteta, to be honest, than anything else. But at the end of the day, this club is moving in the right direction. And if we get top four this season, which is still very much, we're in a really good position, as Lee says, not only to get fourth, but to get third. So don't forget about that. But, that's an unbelievable achievement. For this young squad, the youngest squad in the Premier League, with the youngest coach in the Premier League, to get fourth or maybe third, that's an unreal achievement. And people will go, this is Arsenal. We should be winning Premier Leagues and challenging for titles. I agree with you. We absolutely should. But we're not there right now.
No,
Oh,
but
We have to get there very fast, because if we don't, which is why I stand by that, if he doesn't get us back into Europe, you really have to question his employment with the club, because you then start running the risk of losing a Saka, losing a Martinelli, even losing a Tierney. That is the biggest issue and biggest problem. When Saka goes off and hangs out with the England boys and he's talking to Foden and he's talking to Grealish and he's hanging out with Trent Alexander-Arnold and all these other players. We've seen it happen before at our club.
Totally
Not
agree.
building on Alexis Sanchez, Santi, Ozil at the time, not going and getting the centre-back, the defensive midfielder, a prolific striker. That is the biggest pickle the Arsenal face, which is why still having a sliver of Europe and being able to attract better players to support what is happening now is fundamental to our success and our future. Otherwise, we're going to lose this whole crop of players all over again, and it will be a total disaster if we let that happen.
And
100%.
totally agree with everything that's said there, what Tom said and everything there. Totally agree with it. All the bumps and all the rides and everything like that. But it's like running a race. You get bumps, you get pushed, you get backs to the side and whatever. Ultimately now, it's come to the last furlong of the race and we have got 10 games. Forget what's happened in the past. Forget everything else. It's 10 games. 10 games between success and failure.
I think it's a great way to end it.
Come
It's
on,
been
you done it.
passionate. It's been passionate and it's been good. And do you know what? I don't want this to come across negative because I think in parts it has tonight. But actually, we're in a really good position. It's in our hands. We've got 10 games left. Everyone calls them cup finals, don't they? 10 cup finals left. And I think that we have to look at tomorrow night as being huge. I'm with Lee. I think these next 3 games are must win because we've got a very tough run coming up after it. But I do feel confident and optimistic that we are seeing some progress in terms of a style of play. I like some of the players now. I think Tom mentioned it earlier. You look down the tunnel and I think, I actually like these. It wasn't long ago that I didn't like Hector Bellerin, Mesut Ozil, Mustafi, Granit Xhaka, who unfortunately is still here, and some of the others. But now they're going and they're being removed. And I do like some of the stuff that Mikel Arteta has done 100%. I don't quite feel like I'm 100% convinced that this guy is the right guy to take us back to where I want to be at the top. But certainly this season, if we get top 4, I'm happy to accept that that is a successful season. I think personally, anything outside of that could be seen by a lot of the fan base as a failure because of the circumstances that I've mentioned in terms of how much we spent, 1 game a week, and how poor some of the other teams around us have been. This has been a wicked debate. I've really enjoyed this, guys. It's been a real good one. And I think the chat have been lit up as well. So it's been great to see everybody watching live. We've had just under 1,000 watching, which is great stuff. If we can smash the like button, that'd be much appreciated. And if you're not subscribed already, please make sure that you are. Also, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the Highbury Squad and, of course, Tom's channel, Gooner Talk TV as well, who provide amazing content pretty much daily, if I'm honest with you. So if you're not over there, I don't know where the hell you've been. So please get yourselves over to the Highbury Squad and the Gooner Talk TV as well. My thanks to Lee Judges.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. That was a great debate. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to be on there with negative gooners thinking that Spurs will get above us.
I just love the way that it got to the end, and he's like, after all this debating, I think we will get third. That was just
classic.
One of the
classic,
best.
another
best
classic
lead
Lee line.
judges. That was one of the best lead judges
We're
moments in
getting
a while.
top 4. We're getting top 4.
We're getting it. Come on. I have to put. I want some positivity.
Man, it's got to be optimistic, man. It's got to be optimistic. We've got something going on in the chat here. I don't know what's happening. Tom, my thanks to you, Tom. Thanks for coming on, bro.
No, always an absolute pleasure to join you, Free, as always, because, we're able to having a debate and being mates at the end of it, even if we don't always see the same opinions. We're grown-ups. That's what we do.
We'll get offline and everyone will go, don't speak to me again.
Oh, yeah, I've blocked them all on.
Has to be said, man. Soph, we've been going for nearly an hour and a half tonight because it's just been a flowing chat, but thank you so much for coming on, Soph. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me, guys. Brilliant debate, great chat, and thanks to everyone in the live chat as well. Well, most of you anyway.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for watching, everybody in the live chat and everybody listening on the audio. Thank you so much. This has been Lee Judges TV. We'll be back next week where hopefully we'll take another 3 points off of Crystal Palace tomorrow night. Come on, you Gooners. Take care. Up the Arsenal.